Ladies and gents, we are live. My name is Taylor Bentur. I want to talk to you today about blue oceans and what marketing in them actually feels like, looks like. I got a message here from 2018 back when our agency was in a blue ocean, and it is a dream come true. It allows you to scale from 0 to 10, 25, 30, 40, 50, sometimes $100,000 per month very quickly. It really depends on obviously how business savvy you are. And unfortunately, I wasn't that business savvy back in 2018 when I was in this blue ocean. But this will be a really useful video for you if you've kind of hit a plateau, because in understanding blue oceans, you can better understand if you're in a blue ocean, a red ocean, somewhere in between, and then kind of think about the sophistication levels of your market, which is a concept developed by Eugene Schwartz, which we'll get into. And that really allows you to have the ability to create better messaging that resonates with the ideal clients that you want to attract, and therefore, have higher, amounts of leads and stronger pipeline, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So let's get straight into it. First of all, what is a blue ocean? It's a market that has basically tremendous demand for a service and very little supply of whatever that service could be. It's essentially one in which, you're the only person swimming around in the blue ocean. There's no sharks. A red ocean is one where there's tons of blood. It's a bloodbath, and there's tons of sharks, meaning it's very competitive. That's the simple concept. Here's what a blue ocean actually looks like. This is a message I found on my LinkedIn in 2018, and I don't know why I said this first message here. I think that was either a mistake. I would never send that now. But that just goes to show it doesn't even matter. In a blue ocean, you can just send the most basic templated stuff and it'll work. This is the copy-paste outreach message that we were sending, or I was sending at the time. And I can tell you that at this time, when I was sending this copy-paste message, I would do it every day. I would try to find at least 10, 20 sellers that I could identify to be ideal clients, connect with them. As soon as they connected, send them this copy-paste message. Very manual, grimy, kind of monotonous stuff. But I was doing it, and it was building me a pipeline. And it was such a blue ocean that 10%, probably more, of the people that I reached out to would respond with this kind of response. I am always open to learning new ways to sell products and gain mentorship. What do you have to offer? In fact, this probably isn't the best example I could give you. I can show you other examples where it's just like, send me your calendar. I'd like to hop on a call. Let's talk. How do we get in touch? I'm interested. Like, mind-blowing responses that nobody really ever talks about or sees, because if you're seeing kind of these response rates, typically you're very scared to talk about the niche that you're in. I was 18, 19 years old when I started, and at this time, I was probably 19, 20, but I didn't even want to talk about the niche that I was in because I was worried it was going to turn into a red ocean, and I think that was fine. I think that's a good thing. If you're really in a blue ocean and you're really finding something like a really gold mine, you probably shouldn't talk about it. That's just my opinion. Okay, so this is the type of response rates that you see. You can send a super basic, what in a red ocean, this would never work. It would be terrible. You typically get a 0.25, 0.5% response rate, and the response rate that you would get would not be something open-minded like this. It would probably be a lot more negative response rates, like no thanks, not interested, blah, blah, blah. This is what you see in a blue ocean. There's a real example for you. Now, what's interesting is if you're in a blue ocean, first of all, you should send 100, 200, 300 basic templated messages like this. Get a feel for the market. If you can't, from the moment you enter the market, identify what kind of color the ocean is, if it's blue, if it's red, if it's somewhere in between, if you can't identify that when you're entering a market, test the waters. Really, this is the only way that you test the waters. If you send 300 of these messages and nobody responds positively, nobody's interested, well, it's either pretty red or there's no service market fit. It's one of the other. It's one of the two. Okay. Now, what you have to really be aware of is Eugene Schwartz talks about this, and I said in the beginning of this video, I think we talk about Eugene Schwartz and the market sophistication levels. I think I mentioned that, but market sophistication concept mentioned by Eugene Schwartz, really good for understanding how you can talk to your ideal clients to make sure that the messaging that you're using resonates with them. If I was doing THM in 2016 when I started my agency, it would have been really overkill. There was no need to do a fancy Loom video or anything of this nature. Truly, it was just the need to reach out and say, hey, do you need help managing your advertising on Amazon? I offer a service purely doing that. I'd be happy to discuss. Or, hey, I noticed that you guys have a great brand on Amazon. Do you need help with managing your advertising at scale? A super simple, direct, basic message. This is what Eugene Schwartz calls the Pioneer, well, he doesn't actually call it the Pioneer level, I don't think. This is just level 1 market sophistication. And he says, when you're in a level 1 sophisticated market, you should be simple and direct, okay, in your messaging. And there's further details. If you want further details, I recommend you read the book Breakthrough Advertising. And let's talk about the flip side of the spectrum. What happens if you're in a red ocean, okay? If you enter a red ocean, I talked about this in my live stream yesterday. If you're in a red ocean, typically it's the antithesis of this, right? So just invert simple and direct. Yeah, you can somewhat do that. So if you invert simple and direct, you would make something very unique, okay? So it's not really simple. It could be simplistic in design per se, but it wouldn't just be like a single sentence like, hey, do you need help with your Amazon advertising? THM is a good example of something that is very unique, and it stands out amongst a crowd of people sending basic templated copy-paste messages on LinkedIn. So this is where I'm going with this, okay? As the market becomes more and more competitive, you need to do something that's completely different than the market. Zig Ziglar has a good mental model. When everybody's zigging, you should zag. Great mental model. And that's also a good concept that you should consider in your market. What is everybody else doing? I'm going to do something totally different, okay? Another thing is I'm a big believer that when a market gets really bloody and really red and there's just so much competition, it does tell you one thing. It tells you that there's a lot of market to be had. Like if something can get huge, if a market can get massive and really bloody, there's obviously also markets that are smaller and are very red oceans as well and very hard to get into. But if you can get into a big one, there's still a lot of opportunity for you to get into it. You just need to be creative in how you swim around in the ocean and get big. Okay, a good example is Client Boost is a good agency that entered Google AdWords, basically PPC CRO. PPC CRO has been around for 20 years almost. And they entered, built an agency just doing Google AdWords and CRO, conversion rate optimization. They've scaled from like 0 to 20 million ARR in, 6-7 years. How have they done it? They did it primarily through thought leadership, content on their blog, making a really unique website that stands out, and just content and thought leadership, speaking at different events, really just partnering with big people in the industry, being a small fish but looking like a big fish, kind of like, a minnow wearing a shark hat. They were seen in the market as a shark from early on because they had this really professional website, even when they were doing like 10K, 20K MRR. And they were then starting to do all these partnerships with companies like Unbounce and I think like Marcato or different really big companies. They were starting to do like joint webinars and blog posts together. And as they posted more about this, and then eventually they started speaking at conferences, big conferences to with marketing, CRO, etc. So they came into a red ocean market, still crushed it. It's harder, but it's possible. And I'm a big believer that in a red ocean, you should go down the pathway of content and trying to become a thought leader and really being able to look bigger and unique amongst everybody else. Difficult, but possible. I don't really think that going into a red ocean and trying to master outreach is necessarily the best strategy, because it's kind of a short-term game. There probably are some markets where it makes sense. I'm not aware of which ones those would be, but I'm a big believer in content and playing the long game in a red ocean. Blue ocean, sure, go for it. Do some outbound, get yourself some clients quickly, but invest in content inbound very quickly as well, because that's really going to be the long-term driver of a lot of lead inflow, talent application inflow, opportunities to partner with other companies, opportunities to get acquired. Countless opportunities come from inbound, whereas outbound, it really doesn't have much horizon effect and positive second order consequences. And the half-life of an outbound campaign, which I've talked about before, really isn't anywhere near as good as an inbound campaign. So I've talked about that in previous videos. But anyways, that is really breaking into red oceans and my opinions on that. But the purpose of this video is really to just give you a good look at what a blue ocean feels like. 10% response rates, immediate interest, short sales cycles, simple, direct messaging, high resonation with the message. That's really what it's all about. So, ladies and gents, if this helped you, please let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel, hit the sub button, and let me know if you have any thoughts on ideas for future videos. All right, much love. Ciao, you guys.